Wow, I'd love to welcome you all to our 4th annual fall celebration. We are so very proud of each and every one of our students who have achieved 400 or more on our California state testing. Our students here tonight that will come before you are students who have scored over 400 in English language arts, math, or science, or a combination of the above. So I'm going to ask Mr. DeVoe if he will lead us off. And the students will come up by sight and we will take pictures and move forward to the next one.
Good evening. You guys all right out there?
Yeah.
All right. This is a celebration, after all. All right, a little bit of logistics first. Good evening. My name is Ty DeVoe. I'm the principal of Vasquez High School. Nice to see you. To your right, we have Wendy Barnes, the Dean of Students at Vasquez High School. Kim Tredick, Metal Art Principal. Rena Smith, Agua Dulce Elementary School Principal. And Mary Krumerick, High Desert School Principal. We've tried to make this quick, but still have the time to honor each student. We have a lot of students to honor tonight. As Ms. Simons mentioned, we're honoring proficient or advanced scores, 400 or higher on the STAR test. We're going to call the names of the students, and I ask that when your name is called, if you are present, please make your way down over to the principals and dean, at which place you'll get a certificate. Then come up the stairs. Members of the board that are up here will shake your hand, and then I ask you to take your place on the risers behind me. When an entire school is represented, or a group, I'm going to ask the press to come up, Lillian and Ms. Crabtree, to take a picture for the paper, and then after that I'll let parents come up. We'll ask that parents come up and get a chance to take a picture of their son or daughter on the risers, and then we'll begin with the next group. So that's how we'll work logistically. When you exit the risers, please exit on this side, and we'll get through this together. Okay. I'm going to begin with our highest achievers. We had 8 students in the entire district that scored a perfect score on mathematics. Perfect score. Didn't miss one question on the California state test. And for these students, we have special medals for them that are engraved with their name as part of the 600 Club. We're very proud of them. So please join me in congratulating and welcoming up onto the stage members of our 600 Club from the district. We'll begin with Micah Luvisi. And Wyatt Echevarria. And then Maya and Tally Nino. Maya and Tally. Casey Arguelles. Caroline Fox. Benjamin Lee. And Caleb Becerra.
This particular report I'm honored to get tonight, some of which I'm going to read, some of which I'm going to elaborate on, just tongue-in-cheek, if you will, and then ask questions and kind of go through this. This particular report that I'm going to give tonight as it relates to Vasquez High School construction is relating to 12.1 and 12.2 and 12.3. So these particular agenda items are in essence what I'll be talking about tonight. If you remember right, in the last several months we had talked about that the board, etc., directed me and my staff, my committee, to take a look at and evaluate the proposed development of Vasquez High School. We've done so as a result of specifically multiple different reasons. Number one, obviously, we documented and have well documented that we've come in over bid on a public bid process, as well as we looked at a possible modular solution that also came in over bid. As a result, we were directed to go back to the table and take a look at our civil and our site work and try to mitigate all of the export if we could, and be able to account for that excessive amount of site and civil work. We did a lot of meetings with individual board members. We did a ton of meetings with folks outside of this board that happen to have a good body of work under their belt. We appreciate their time and their efforts and their energy and assisting us and giving us great ideas, and some of which may not have been used. Some of the things were used because of LA County and a variety of things, but in essence, we were able to come back with what we believe is a really good site plan. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that here in a second. So currently, part of that process included an effort to secure civil site work plan review, and specifically from LA County, Building and Safety, and revised the master grading plan that limited that soil expert that we talked about. Engineering has prepared a revised grading plan and coordinated with LA County, project architect, and other consultants. We've revised the hydrology calculations, the retaining wall design and calculations. We've revised detention basin and storm drain plans, and revised wet utility plans. When all of the plans are approved by LA County, obviously at this point, we'll need to be able to go back out to bid in a competitive bid process. The district development team solicited after and concurrent to this as another separate activity. The district development team solicited and interviewed potential lease-leaseback experienced general contractors through the solicitation of what we are calling statement of qualification methods. 17 general contractors received this invitation. The solicitation yielded 11 individual general contractors that responded. They were all paper screened for minimum qualifications, and 3 general contractors met the highest standards of the statement of qualification and were interviewed, references checked, licenses, lease-leaseback experience were all verified literally to the nth degree. We called everyone we could think of on their list and off their list to vet each and every one of these general contractors. The final selection and recommendation tonight will be JTS Construction. We had asked them to previously, as you know, and it's been well documented again, we had a previous discussion and topical conversation as it relates to JTS Engineering. Obviously, understandably coming outside of our bid parameters, very close to what we had previously done. We clearly recognized that was problematic and seriously flawed based upon the fact our civil and our site work just had way too much export and was not designed well enough to be able to account for our budget, put it that way. The proposed preliminary service agreement that you see tonight for JTS is a general contractor affiliated also with JTS Modular. I need to make the differentiation solely because we're talking about JTS Construction tonight. JTS Construction is also a company in association with JTS Modular. However, again, we're looking at their general construction background and their general construction portion of their company tonight. And that's who, in essence, my recommendation is to enter into a lease-leaseback pre-construction services agreement. Simply because of the last time we had talked about it, I want to make sure, again, that we differentiate the two. Even though it is our recommendation that we also utilize JTS Modular Construction on this particular site, as well as utilize general construction services from JTS Construction. So they also have both companies. They basically can run the project from A to Z. That should include, these services will include in your pre-construction agreement, is project management services, scheduling, value engineering, compensation, termination, records ownership, warranty, insurance requirements, indemnity, independent contractors, successors, assignment representations, covenants, warranties, prepared by the district legal team and consultants, and all of that process will happen as a result of this pre-construction service agreement. It also includes multiple subcontractors for approximately 17 various trade packages, not included within the prefabricated modular building component. I won't go through all those trades, but just as an example, between earthwork, paving, site concrete, structural, drywall, fireproofing, etc., etc. There are 17 different various trade packages that will need to entertain a potential bid for this project, and it will be in this lease-leaseback parameter, which again will be conducted by, if approved, JTS Construction, and will be in collaboration with the district, meaning we will be part of the process in collaboration with JTS Construction. You see a basic project, and I wanted to hand these out tonight. This is the most up-to-date version, if you will, so we have those. Give one to those two individuals, I appreciate it. We've kind of gone over this document quite a few times. This is the latest. What you have in the inbox might be slightly different, solely because Gary has been, vetting these numbers as best we possibly can. Tonight before you, you're seeing, in this case, a lease-leaseback delivery method and an opinion of probable cost for the gymnasium and administrative classrooms. The first question tonight is obviously, if you can see, the total project value includes hard costs and soft costs, fee allowances, design, preliminary services, etc. Yes.
Dr. Woodard, thank you. I just wanted to set for context. Maybe I could separate the pieces. Sure. To make sure I understand. On the one hand, this agreement is essentially, for lack of a better word, asking them to do a consulting assignment for us, where they assemble all the subcontractor information and come back and give us a firm bid for the work.
Which basically, let me rephrase just a few things.
Okay.
The intent tonight is if you approve the pre-construction service agreement with JTS Construction, it's basically their charge to go forward with a process for all of these sub-consultants to bring back to us a guaranteed maximum price, which will be embedded in a lease-leaseback contract.
No, I know. Yes, okay. Okay. It was a clearer way of saying what I was trying to say. But just to distinguish what it is, because when you vote on something, you're always trying to think to yourself, what's the gravity of this vote?
Yeah.
So, as I understand this, there's nothing about what we're voting on, if we vote on this tonight, that is binding except to the extent of the $5,000 commitment.
No, that is absolutely correct.
And then they will come back and say, here is the final cost of the project, the not to exceed number.
That is correct.
Which will match this in some fashion.
That is correct.
Hopefully. And then we'll have the big decision, which is, okay, go forward.
That's correct. The only question I would like to also entertain is, I think, in order to try and save money, if we're going to go out to bid on a gym, that's going to cost us an additional $20,000 in bid fees and things like that, reproduction costs. Or do we want to go out for bid on the classrooms and the administration?
So part one of the decision that you're asking us tonight is, let's allow them to go ahead and do this consulting. Correct. It's a $5,000 obligation, and it'll come back with a not to exceed number. And point two of what you'd like clarity on is, guys, do you want to bid both, or do you want to just pick one?
There you go.
Now, is it 5,000 or is it 10 to 15?
No, what it would be is $5,000 specifically to JTS, and then there would be reimbursable costs for reproduction and bid packages.
Which we'd have either way.
We have either way. But that's in essence to reimburse them for those costs, not to exceed $20,000.
Now, didn't Erickson Hall want close to 100K for?
Well, that would be, yes, that is correct. If you will, a couple of the other ones, and why we selected JTS was specifically because, in essence, they didn't want anything. They were willing to do it for free. It was us that said, no, we wanted to attach a dollar value to it, to obviously obligate them to give us a package. They're entering into a contract with us now. That's a $5,000, it's a minimal amount of money that allows them to give and construct a lease-leaseback contract for us and bring us back that guaranteed maximum price. You're correct. Some of the other companies that we entertained in a general construction format wanted 1% of the project value, which would have exceeded $100,000 in a pre-construction.
You just want to point that out.
Absolutely. The question is, if you will, I think Matt summarized it pretty well in that this particular document, what I'm asking you to consider and approve tonight, is the pre-construction service agreement that will basically give us an action item to enter into a contract with JTS Construction to move forward with establishing a lease-leaseback contract and a guaranteed maximum price. That's a critical piece. So there's quite a few things, obviously.
Now, what could go wrong, just thinking out loud, is we could spend the 5,000, which is frankly in the context of things, it's fine. And they could come back and go, it's actually 17 million. And then we'd say, okay, we're not doing it. Correct. So it would be, we'd use some time and spend some.
But this will be the right way of doing it, since in May of 2012, the way we did it, we didn't have an accurate cost estimate. So when it came back, when we finally pulled the trigger on it, it came back much more. So this will be a good investment to avoid.
I guess, to be honest with you, maybe I'm overemphasizing a few points only because, and you know, I'm going to call that out, is that we had a previous agreement with JTS, and obviously they came in overbid, and we had some issues as it related to the civil and the site work. We interviewed, like I said, it feels like that's all we've done, is interview, vet, and really get to the bottom of a lot of general contractors as well as prefabricated modular companies. And I guess Mr. Porter and I, as well as several other staff members, actually visited the site at JTS. We've seen not only JTS, but other modular company and their product. And I firmly believe, I guess, if I'm saying what I'm saying tonight, is that we're bringing this forward because we believe in JTS and the product, and we believe that it's a much better solution for us. Mainly because, number one, all of the classrooms, including the science and the art labs, are exactly as designed. Okay? Some of the other companies want to shrink it and make it fit their cookie cutter. JTS is not doing that. It's going to be as designed in Option E and our DSA approved plans. Now, we've got to go back to JTS, we've got to go back to DSA solely because there's some re-engineering pieces to it. It's a different delivery method. But they do have PCs that are already approved. We don't assume any issue. Secondly, JTS actually included more than some of the other companies and were much cheaper. And so, if we look at some of the other companies, simply put, we're out of the ballpark and we can't afford it. The only company that came in and gave us quotes that were reasonable, what we can afford, is JTS. They're the only reason why they're sitting here today, and not only the reason, because we feel they have a better product, is because they're also within budget parameters. The other companies simply are not. There's a multitude of other reasons. I won't get into that other than the fact that they're also willing and able, and we feel like, even if it's over budget and they come back with a slightly higher bid than we can afford, we believe there's enough fluff, and I don't mean by saying there's too much stuff in here we don't need. We're talking about there's some value engineering left in it. Let me give you an example. The particular, in this case, they have allocated over $150,000 to establish and design a false front or that clock tower look, like we had approved in the budget. There's $150,000 they've already pre-allocated for that. Secondly, if you remember, there's the siding on the rock siding. Things like that can be removed, and we can still save additional money. If you look at this particular probable cost as well, we've been able to allocate a significant amount in FF&E. If you remember, I had a serious concern about that. In the gym option, there's only $100,000 allocated for that, and we're still at 13.2. And in this particular case, yes, it just so happens that it's almost exact as what we have, solely because we allocated as much FF&E as we possibly could, and whatever money we had left in the budget, we put towards FF&E. We believe also, and we could not find, and they may correct me, we could not find one company that they worked with in a lease-leaseback structure where they were actually overbid, meaning that they put together a guaranteed maximum price and they came back with change orders. Not one time did they come back to the district with change orders, unless you guys tour the site and say, I don't like this color, I like that color. Or I want this flooring, or I don't want that flooring. You'll have a full understanding of what product they're going to deliver in our lease-leaseback structure. So I really believe that, number one, that allowance, that 3% contingency, could be moved over to the ledger if you will, on the FF&E allowance. I feel like there's a lot more, or potentially landscaping, or another product that you guys want to make sure happens on that campus. So tonight, there's two decisions I'd like to hear from. Number one is the pre-construction service agreement. I'd like you to consider that and let us get to work. We got a lot of work to do. We want to bring that back in the next few months.
Does the pre-construction services agreement contemplate going out to talk to these subcontractors about both options and coming back and seeing which is less expensive, or are you suggesting that the other decision you want from us tonight is to choose one of these options?
I'm suggesting we could do both, but it's going to cost us money.
So what
I'm
you
suggesting I'd like to have
one
one.
probably.
What's that?
You probably have the cost for one in anything, right? $20,000 of reimbursable cost plus 5.
Well, yes, and that means if we're going to do two, we need to probably double that.
I understand. Okay. So I guess, discussion at the board. I mean, in general, I'll start. I'm encouraged that we are closing in on potentially having somebody say this is a guaranteed maximum to the specs that we've always had in mind for the project. So that's exciting progress, hopefully. I think, it's interesting that the gymnasium now, or the multi-purpose room, actually ends up coming in more expensive, because it's funny, we ultimately started with this idea that we should build classrooms, just kind of sharing history again for anybody that's interested. And we just felt like we couldn't do it, and so, we'll do the less expensive thing and build a multi-purpose room, and it turns out it's actually more expensive.
And when you're done that, I'd like to focus on that a little bit.
No, I'm done, please.
Okay.
Shouldn't we open to 1.2?
I'm sorry. No, this is just a discussion. I think it's,
You can if you want.
Why don't we open it? That way we know.
yeah, we deal at the same time. So 12.2 deals with the actual approval of the contract. So,
I'll move it.
I'll second.
great. So it's open now, including the superintendent's comments.
I focused on that very issue earlier, and it prompted me to have conversations with the superintendent about it. And not that anybody in the public will remember, but I think we're still obligated as representatives of the public to make sure there's a continuity of history and going forward. And Matt's right. We said, you know what, we can't do the whole option B, let's dump it and let's build a gym. Not because the structure itself is necessarily going to be less expensive, but we were thinking conceptually that we wouldn't have to develop the entire site. That we'd carve out a little portion of the site, improve that portion of the land, and go ahead and build a gym.
That costs you so much.
Right. And it appears that the reason now why the gym ends up being more costly is because of the fix that we were able to identify in terms of soil and site prep, and without having to export all the soil, we decided we were going to raise the site and leave the soil there and save $1 million+, which members of the community told us we would be able to do if we researched it, and we did, and it looks like we got there.
$2 million+.
But what ends up happening then is you can't have that site prep strategy and still carve out a little pad for the gym anymore. We have to do more site development than we otherwise would have, because all that soil needs to be put somewhere. So everything has to be elevated. So it ends up, the cost of the gym goes up not because of the building material, but because of the site work and the engineering and all that. So Matt's right, we're kind of on this roller coaster. We go from one option back to the other, and one option and back to the other. But it looks like our fix in terms of the site prep is now what kind of narrows us back down to building the classrooms again. And the only other comment I had, Mr. President, is that because they're a modular company, and they can guarantee a price on a lease-back, because they own the company, they own the work, they own the site, they're modular, they can control the cost. What they can't control out to bid, even though there's more opportunity on a lease-leaseback for them to negotiate with those people who ultimately did bring the cost down, I will continue to be leery about that cost until that bid is put out, those numbers come back, and if they're too high, the ability of JTS to negotiate it down. And I expressed to the superintendent earlier, after all of this, we can still potentially be in a situation where the cost of site work still puts us over budget, even with the correction. And I continue to be concerned about that. I don't know that much has happened in the construction industry in the last 8 months, but I can tell you prices didn't go down. Okay, so we did, our whole thing about we saved $1 million to $1.5 million is predicated on an old budget or bid value. We don't know what the bid value is currently. And everybody guesses. We guessed last time and said, oh, this will be what it is, and we missed it by about 100 miles. So, just for everybody's understanding, is why we probably will be closer this time. There's still no guarantee through that bidding process that we're going to come in, even with the savings, that we're going to come in within budget. So that's the part that continues to worry me. But what other choices do we have but to go forward on that? We did our due diligence, we made the changes, and we see what happens. But until there's a maximum guaranteed price put into place, there is no guarantee. We're still out there waving in the wind until we get that done. And to me, the sooner we do it, the better off we're going to be. And let's not forget that when we went for peer review on architect design, the peer review architect said, you better get this done in the fall, because by 2014, it's not going to happen for you. A month, 2 months?
It depends on bin time at DSA. It's something that nobody in this room has control over, but that can be 6-8 weeks.
But we do have control over when we get to DSA.
Yes, absolutely.
When is that a problem?
So what we've talked about the schedule a little bit, so I'll go in a little more detail. The next 3 to 4 weeks, we're working on value engineering. We're going to be meeting with Gary and coming up with more ideas, redesigning the electrical a little bit and then put it out to bid about the middle of December, and then get bids around middle of January. Meet with the district, go through what we have and everything else. Ideally, around the middle of February, we'll have that guaranteed maximum price set in stone. Assuming that's good, taking up Mark has said, and we're within the budget. The complete finished design of the modular buildings will get into DSA. Meanwhile, the site can get started in about probably May. The modular buildings will start being constructed around August or September. About a 13-month project for completion of the site around late June, early July of 2015, giving the district time to move in, start up systems and everything else for the 2015 school year.
Believe it or not, I also talked to quite a few people, and their time frame and what they say it is generally, I mean, right on. If not over.
Swimming pool in?
Probably not.
It's
Don't
all
forget, for them, time is money.
You saw the slideshow where we saw the campus.
Exactly.
It was a
I just drew in a swimming pool on the plan. That's not an issue. You're going to be digging holes anyway, right?
So gentlemen, my suggestion would be that you come back under 12.7.
That's what we certainly are working hard to
It's
do.
actually less than that. Don't give them that.
Yeah.
I said under.
I need a lot more evidence.
Yes.